if I'm sitting here cheating myself, if I'm sitting here losing motivation and giving myself a little pity party because I can't do this, you really think my clients want to see that? You really think people want to see that? Welcome to episode 4 of Eat a Burger Bitch podcast. I am one of your hosts, Morgan, and today I am riding solo today. Angela could not make it. I wanted to get an episode out because I know we've taken a little bit of a hiatus here. I've obviously been busy in prep, and that is going to be what this episode is about. Just my journey with prep. I am currently 7 weeks out. So we're just going over a couple things. I opened the door to questions on my page for anyone who was curious about anything. Yes, I am a first-time competitor, so this is all still new to me, but I still would love to share my journey, share my experience with anyone out there who is maybe aspiring to compete one day or just curious about the process to begin with. So, with that being said, I started prep back in March. I started prep about 22 weeks out, currently 7 weeks out. So if you do the math here with my prep brain, that is 15 weeks so far that I'm in, which is crazy to think about, and 7 more to go. In that time period, I have traveled. I've been to Idaho. I've been to California. I have done workouts, meals, haven't skipped a meal, haven't skipped a workout, haven't skipped a cardio session, have not eaten anything off plan, have drank my water, gotten my steps in. It has been just regimented to a T here, which is honestly the ideology behind prep, right? You have to be 110% in order to obviously look your best and be your best what you're bringing to on stage. So I'm going to go through some questions here that people have asked. I'm also going to just make it a point to explain a little bit further beyond the questions and touch on maybe things that people are curious about that didn't really come up in the questions here. So first question is, what made you want to compete? This is stemming back for years now. This is something I've always wanted to do personal accomplishment wise. This started back in 2020, having the thoughts about competing. I knew a couple people that competed at the time. I think obviously back 4 years ago, fitness wasn't as popular as it is now, right? Instagram too. But it definitely sparked my mind, definitely had me eager to explore more lifting. I will say is once I learned more about competing and surrounded myself with more people who did compete, I did change my style of training to more aesthetics focused in hopes to eventually compete one day. Before, when I was training, I was not really structured. Honestly, ego lifting, I hate to say that now, but it is what it is, right? You know, you start somewhere. I was powerlifting and then doing Olympic lifting. I was doing Muay Thai. I was doing a bunch of different things. I really didn't have a set standard of what I wanted to accomplish. I just liked going to the gym. I liked training. I liked training hard. I feel like that's something I've always carried with me is whatever I do with intent. Whether it was Muay Thai, whether it was powerlifting, whether it was Olympic lifting, there was intent behind it. There was purpose behind it. And to go on about that, I think it comes more so from being a former athlete, having that athlete mentality. So once I changed my style of training to more aesthetic bodybuilding focus, obviously hypertrophy training. Gosh, I cannot. Okay, anyway. once I changed my style of training to that, I began to fall in love with it more and more and more. And I think you see this common trend of people, they get into it and they're like, holy crap, I'm obsessed, right? Because essentially if you're changing your physique, if you're seeing changes with your physique, well, that's one hell of a motivator right there. But two, being able to see people around you having this huge accomplishment of stepping on stage, having the willpower, having the discipline to do so, and really just, what you can do with your body is absolutely incredible if you are on point like that. And which is one of the reasons why, obviously, as a bodybuilder, you can make that drastic of a change in 16 weeks and 20 weeks because you are literally all in for this prep. So what made me compete, I would say 4 years ago, when I surrounded myself with more people who were into bodybuilding, learning about it, watching videos. I remember 4 years ago, I would watch Chris Plumstead videos before the gym. That's when I started getting into it. And then I started listening to different YouTubes, right? Fuad's podcast, Bro Chat, Chris's obviously YouTube. I will say when I first started, I watched more male bodybuilders than females. And honestly, I think I still watch mainly more male bodybuilder videos than females today. I don't know. It's just something, it's just more interesting. And I feel like obviously too, the male aspect of things is a little more popular. But I think personality wise, like, it's just more interesting. So that's when I, got that interest. I think back in 2020, I didn't have the full-on confidence in myself. And I think that stemmed from going through that vicious cycle before 2020 of falling off of my goals. And when I say that, I mean not sticking to what I know was true to myself. It's the self-sabotage. So I felt like that was always the limiting factor for myself, is the self-sabotage of what I was used to, and how was I going to prep on stage if I still had that lingering in myself? So the past 4 years, yes, I worked on learning, 1, core values, which I'll touch on, but 2, standards, 3, non-negotiables, 4, staying true to myself. And having that limiting factor in front of you of, okay, I really want to do something, but there's no way I could do that. That negative self-talk was only stopping me from doing it probably sooner. But there were also other things health-wise that I knew needed to take a priority before I could eventually step on stage. And you know what? For a third thing too, I will say is I wanted to really take time to develop my physique before I actually stepped on stage. Because I feel like today, people are so quick to want to step on stage, yet they don't realize that they have nowhere near the amount of muscle mass that they need when it's time to step on stage. Yeah, you might feel like you're ready now, but when you have to get to that point of leanness and you truly uncover what's there, you probably don't have enough muscle. So yeah, taking those 4 years of training hard still, having structure, hiring a coach, making sure I was setting myself up for success now down the road 4 years later, I mean, shoot, that's where it should be. It shouldn't be this rush to just jump on stage just because you saw your friend do it and you're like, you know what, I can do it too. I don't need any experience like that. I'm just going to do it, So really take that in consideration here. for anyone looking to compete, obviously I'm no pro. This is my first time, but just from my experience of wanting to do this for so long, I think it's definitely something to really consider. All right, next question. This is probably the most popular question that was asked total 4 times. What has been the hardest part of prep so far? And what I will say is the hardest part of prep for me has been more of the mental side versus the physical side. The physical side comes down to eating the meals, getting training in, doing the cardio, getting sleep, recovery. Those are all things that I've instilled into my lifestyle for the past, like I said, 4 years, that it's nothing really brand new to me. I know what I need to do in terms of that. Like I said, I love to train hard. I love training. Training in the gym right now for me is the time where I feel the best. Stepping into the gym, getting a good pump, strength, just, it's incredible right now, especially being able to see the changes. But as far as the mental side goes, and I know just from obviously watching different videos, podcasts of competitors, the mental side is so important. And what I truly found, especially in the beginning of prep, the hardest part for me was questioning if I was truly going to be ready by that time. And reminding myself too, okay, even if I'm not ready, okay, we push it back, right? We push the show day back. Don't be married to that specific day. Yes, it's cool to put a day on it, but also don't be married to it. So that's one thing I've learned, one thing I've definitely just struggled with. Like I said, as far as not seeing those changes as quick as I probably thought I should be seeing them. But from what I've experienced, I really started seeing the changes, I'd say, the past 3 to 4 weeks. So starting around that 12-week mark is when I really started to see actual changes happening. And I was like, okay, things are really starting to heat up now, right? So I'd say in the beginning, it was definitely, I could say discouraging, I could say frustrating, I could say just questioning, because I think in prep, you know that you have to get to a certain point of leanness, and it's like, okay, in the first couple of weeks, if I'm not losing weight, well, what makes me think I'm going to start losing weight in the next 4 weeks, right? So for one thing, the mental has been the hardest part. Like I said, it's definitely something that I'm learning on the way. This is my first time, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, right? I'm kind of going into this blind in a way, because I know my body, but not to this point, because I've never taken it to this point. So it's a cool learning experience that I am grateful, so very grateful for, to be able to do this and to be able to gotten my body to a point where I can get into a contest prep. But at the same time, I have to roll with the punches and continue to push myself, even when days get hard, right? Even when there's days that I don't want to do it, even when there's things that come up, for instance, traveling, right? Yes, I very well could have said no to those travel plans, but those are things that I didn't want to miss out on. And I knew going into those plans that I could still make it happen in my books, in my eyes, in order to continue the prep process and what needed to be done. So that is my take on what has been the hardest so far. And, talk to me in 4 weeks. I feel like I'm probably going to have another thought of, or just thing come up of something being hard. But that's the first thing that my mind goes to right now. And obviously too, this is something that I do want to make another episode of, like a part 2, obviously post show, but maybe even something a little bit closer to show day as well. Because like I said, things are changing by the day, not just by the week. So my response to things next week could be completely different. But in the grand scheme of things, this is what's happening right now for me. Next question. Why don't you complain about prep the way most people do? I had to laugh a little bit when I saw this, because I was like, yeah, that's just not me. I'm just not one to complain about stuff like that. I've never, even when I was playing sports, I never complained. And if I did, it was probably in my head, because I'm a very introverted person when it comes to my thoughts and my feelings. And I know my family knows that, my friends, most of my friends know that, is I'm very quiet. I'm working on it. I'm very quiet when it comes to expressing certain things. And when it comes to the work I know I need to do, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. And it's just not me. It's just not something I've ever done. Like I said, being an athlete, like I said too, never something that I complained about. When coach said, do this, it was done. You know, when my coach now says, do this, noted, got it. I'd say like check-ins when I send my coach, like it's very minimal. You know, it's okay, got it, I'll like it, sounds good. There's no more to it, right? There's no more to it. There's no more that needs to be to it, because why am I going to question something? Do it. Do the fucking work. Do the work. It's got to be done. So for 1, 2, like I said, I've been wanting to compete for 4 years. I have watched people prep. I've prepped a client myself. I know mostly the ins and outs of it, besides obviously the application of doing it, which I am right now. But I knew what it instilled. So why would I go into something having a mindset where I'm going to sit here and complain about it? If that's the case, this is my choice to do it. And if I'm going to sit here and complain about the cardio I have to do and the meals I have to eat and the food getting lower and doing XYZ, that's a choice I make for myself that I've wanted to do. And for those people who sit here and complain about it, it's like, why are you even doing it in the first place if you're just going to sit here and complain the entire time? Do you actually want to do it? Like, what's the reason you're doing it for? Are you doing it, like I said, because your best friend did it and you're like, oh, I should probably do this too, but I'm really not ready to do this? Or are you doing it because you want to test your ability, you want to test how far you can push yourself, a personal accomplishment to be able to go up there on stage and do something that less than 1% of the world can actually do? You decide. Again, you are in control of your choices. You make the decision to go into a contest prep. Don't sit here and complain if that's something that you deep down don't want to do and you're just doing it because you saw your favorite influencer do it or your best friend do it, not because you actually have intent and a purpose behind it. That's my tea right there. How do you manage cravings? People may call me weird, but I think as far as cravings go, as much as I'd love to eat a burger, I really crave the food that I eat, and I'm not even kidding with you. I really crave bowl of Gaines brownie batter. I crave salmon, I crave chicken, I crave rice, I crave oatmeal and cinnamon and salt. I could eat that for the rest of my life and be so content. I crave eggs. I love whole eggs. I love egg whites. Everything I'm eating right now, I love. So one thing, I make it taste good. Obviously, you're limited with prep. I found hot sauces that can work for right now. Everything but the bagel seasoning. But for one thing, I will say that has saved my entire life is the Ninja Creamy. Being able to literally perfect water, 12 ounces of water, and 1 scoop of whey isolate protein powder into actual ice cream. And I'm not even kidding here. The texture is ice cream equivalent, Wendy's Frosty equivalent. No other additives, no other Jello, sugar-free Jello, nothing. Like literally 2-ingredient water, protein powder, nothing else. Freeze it overnight, put it into the creamy. I have a way of prepping it where you have to let it sit out for a certain period of time, put it through a couple of respins, comes out fabulous. I mean, just has saved my life. I get to put peanut butter or almond butter over top of it. It's incredible. It saved my life. I have used Rise protein powder. I love their protein powder. It sits well with me, digests well with me. They have different flavors that I've tried out throughout prep to give me a little bit of an array of taste. Right now, my kick is the blueberry muffin. Incredible. Also love the chocolate or the peanut butter cup, the cookie blast flavor. It's like an Oreo flavor, honestly. They're all super good. Lifesaver, though. So that has been my nightcap literally every single night. Is that creamy? And it does its job, like I said, to perfection. If you don't have a creamy, I really suggest you getting one because that has been the best birthday gift I've ever received in my almost 26 years of life. Kid you not. Okay, next question. I really like this one. When did you have your, quote, this needs to be a lifestyle to work realization in your journey? This is good. This really made me think hard because I'm going back to when I was in Unity Fitness at the time. This is when John and I first started working together. For those of you who don't know, John used to have a gym space back in 2021 in Maryland, and that's when he reached out to me to in-person train out of the space. And that time period was very interesting for me because I felt like I really learned what it took to become a business owner, because I got my LLC, run a business, and then also be able to take care of myself on top of that as well. What that means is the whole entire day, I made sure I was putting clients into my schedule, one-on-one training, 60 minutes long, but also making sure I had my meals with me. I trained either before or after. I had a coach at the time. I still checked in with my coach. I still did everything I needed to do on top of creating this business and running this business, which obviously at first, whenever you're trying to start a business, like no one ever said starting a business was easy. And there's a lot of time that goes into it, but being able to also still make it a non-negotiable to dedicate my time to still pursue, like I said, I was pursuing bodybuilding at the time, getting into it, had a coach at the time, like I said, had structure behind it, was when I really realized, like, okay, this is what I want to create. Because before that time period when I was working for other gyms before 2020, I'm not gonna lie, I was half-assing myself. I was literally half-assing myself because sure, I was showing up for my clients, but what I was doing outside of that was not aligned with what my goals were. And that's why I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to. And I feel like I also wasn't able to serve my clients as best as I probably could, just because of the half-ass effort I was putting into myself, literally. And like I said, that's why I didn't look the way I wanted to look. And it was this vicious cycle. So finally coming to a point where I was surrounding myself with people that took this shit seriously. Yes, John and other people that he introduced me to be able to have that moment where I'm like, okay, this is my brand. This is my business, right? When I'm working at a gym, when I'm working for a gym, that is essentially their brand. Like, I'm working for them. When this is my business, when I have my own LLC coached by Morgan, I am the front center page of that. So yeah, you best believe I want to look in tip-top shape and be my best and show this lifestyle of you can still have things in moderation and still attain your goals, still achieve your goals. That was the flip of the switch for me where it was like, okay, I really need to take this seriously. I really need to hone in on my nutrition. I really need to hire a coach, a good coach who's going to give me structure, give me tough love because I did need it, right? Like I said, athlete mindset. I'll do what you need. I'll do what you tell me, but also like be stern with it. And that was a riveting point for me in my journey when it comes to business, personal growth, but also for my overall fitness journey too. And having that aha moment of this needs to be a lifestyle to work. Great question there. What do you do so you don't overtrain? I take great pride in recovery. So overtraining doesn't become an issue. I know a lot of people in the past know about my history of overtraining. Obviously, bodybuilding is a different form of nature, especially competition prep, and sometimes you have to make those sacrifices in order to look your best in that period of time. One thing to consider here is bodybuilding is for a certain period of time when you are in show prep and is not a sustainable look year round, and is something that I need to put out there. And if you've heard it or not, you need to hear it again. Again, that bodybuilding stage look, stage leanness is not something you can attain year round, especially if you are someone who is looking to just overall be functionally healthy. Whether you're a female looking to have kids one day or just in general, your body is not meant to live in that state for an extended period of time. Hence why competition prep is for a certain period of time. And then you have an off season where you do gain weight in a strategic way for that period of time. Again, you're not that stage leanness year round. With that being said, overtraining, like I said, has been a topic of conversation of myself, something that I've struggled with before. Taking that into consideration here, I take really great pride in my recovery and things that I do right now, modalities that I do to ensure that recovery is in a good spot. With that being said, I have been using the Brick Bodies Recover Lounge, where they have infrared saunas, they have compression boots, they have the cryo chairs. I've been doing the infrared sauna at least 4 times a week, 20 minutes per session. I will say, and I'm swearing by it right now, that has been a huge, huge tool in my recovery. And honestly too, just overall keeping stress down as much as I can, relaxation. I think too, just there's so many benefits to infrared sauna that I love, but also just being able to implement that 4 times a week for myself, being consistent with that, with anything. If you want it to actually benefit you, you got to be consistent with it. So if you're someone who's looking to get into infrared sauna, that is great. Just be sure that you have to keep up with it. So it's not something you can just do once and say, oh, it worked. Nope, you got to do it at least, like I said, a couple times a week and be consistent with it to actually see the benefit. So I've definitely been utilizing that. If you haven't already checked out Brick Bodies and Timonium, like I said, their recovery lounge, check it out. I love the space. The suites are awesome. The infrared sauna suites are awesome too. They are individual suites. You can hook up your music to the sauna. It has Bluetooth and vibe out. That's what I've been doing. They also have vitamin C showers in the suite that you can obviously post-sauna sesh get into. Obviously, vitamin C has many benefits to the skin that you can utilize as well. I don't personally do the shower, but I know a couple people do and they love it. So that is something I take great pride in, and will continue to even post-prep. What this is probably the second most answer, or this is probably the second most asked question here, is what keeps you motivated throughout this contest prep? I was just having this conversation with someone, and the first thing that comes to mind is knowing that I have a handful of clients that I coach. I have John, I have Chris, I have all these different people that look up to me, even my following on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all these people that are following my journey, looking up to me. The last thing I would want to do is to do something that would not put me in the greatest path to do my best on stage. So having that in the back of my head, like, okay, all these people are watching me right now. All these people are looking up to me. Therefore, I need to push harder. Why would I do something to throw away all the progress I've just made? And this is talking even on days when stuff gets hard, energy's low. Reminding myself of that is that I serve so many different people, and regardless if they are bodybuilders or not, because I don't work with all bodybuilders. In fact, most of my roster is just lifestyle people wanting to look and feel good. But at the end of the day, they're still looking up to me. And if I'm sitting here cheating myself, if I'm sitting here losing motivation and giving myself a little pity party because I can't do this, you really think my clients want to see that? You really think people want to see that? No. And also, like, why would I want to do that to myself? This entire conversation here, I've told all of you, just about what contest prep has meant to me leading up to these 4 years. But even outside of prep too. People know I've always been regimented, especially these past 4 years. My willpower has always been super high. Discipline's always been super high. It's because I just hold myself to those higher standards. Set those standards for myself. Set those core values for myself. Because I know that's what I'm capable of doing, and I know my self-worth. Why would I settle for less? What are your plans for post-show? Good question here. One thing I've learned just from watching bodybuilding, listening to podcasts, is that the prep necessarily does not end when the show hits, right? The most important part of prep is post-show. Post-show, because your body is so used to overworking, right? Lower food, more great amounts of cardio. The last thing you want to do once the contest comes and is over is to just go immediately back to what you were eating, maybe 20 weeks out, 30 weeks out. So I think my focus right now is obviously the show. My focus then moves to post-show and being still honed in on that. I really don't have the urge to go all out and feast because I know what can happen post-show. And I think a lot of people too, going into prep, they need to realize that they need to see beyond just the show and what happens after, because I think that is the most significant part of the journey. Because you can literally gain, I'm just giving a number out there, but like 30 pounds in a matter of like 2 to 3 weeks. Like, it's nothing if you don't take it serious. So, and that just, I mean, talk about wreaking havoc on your body. Your body will absolutely hate you. Then that puts you at risk for developing small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, inflammation, and all these other things that you do not want to go through after show. Because, like I said, that mental aspect of everything, not just during show prep, but after show prep, is huge too. Something, like I said, I've watched, seen people do it. I'm learning myself still. It's something I'm going through, and I definitely want to be able to talk about it post-show too, and to come on here and just let people know how post-show is going, because I think that's what a lot of people are curious about. And like I said, if I'm putting an emphasis on it, I think it's something people should take into consideration too. So like I said, focusing on the show right now, then focusing post-show. I know it's great to set long-term goals, but for me right now at this given time, I don't see bodybuilding becoming a thing I'm going to do like full-time career-wise. Like I said, this is just something that I wanted to check off my list as a personal goal. It's something I've always wanted to do. I want to see how the show goes, how things go, and then kind of make my decision from there, and not make it just like a spur-of-the-moment decision like, oh, this is going to be the rest of my life. No, because I think it's something you definitely have to think about. All right, one more question here, and I'm going to wrap things up. How have you been balancing prep and coaching your clients? One thing I will say is I'm super grateful for being able to have my platform online based, which obviously gives me more flexibility to my schedule to be able to do fasted cardio in the morning, do client work, go train, then do more client work. So for one thing, my schedule, I've made sure I've set myself up structure-wise, schedule-wise, so that it is possible. And I think for one, too, just also being able to separate me time, too, and still doing things that I enjoy. Obviously, with the travel stuff, I'm a big sports fan, still going to Oriole games, still enjoying things like that, still enjoying activities and not necessarily putting everything around food, because that's what people love to do nowadays, just focus on food and drinks, right? But obviously it's not in the cards when you're on prep. And yes, when I've traveled, when I've gone out to dinner, I've brought my meals with me, and it is what it is. But being able to be flexible, but also be structured in a way, has been just huge. Like I said, with what I do, with how I serve people, I've made sure even before prep that my schedule was going to allow this much dedication, this much time for this specific journey of prep, however many weeks. Okay. So that's the biggest thing here. Gonna wrap this up. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Morgan the Personal Trainer. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, you can reach us at ncrnutritioncoaching.com. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe, a follow, whether it's Spotify, whether it's YouTube, wherever you are listening and watching. We greatly appreciate everyone and anyone who has listened, tuned into the podcast, gave us a 5-star review, and all of that good stuff. Also, just going to plug some helpful affiliates during this prep. One being Chi King. Chi King is the chicken breast company I've been using. They are awesome. Also Flavor Gang, sauces. My favorite bowl gains, brownie batter, has been awesome. It still is saving me too. For both of those, you can use code Morgan. I will drop the links for those in the show notes. Angela will probably be back here next episode, but in the meantime, eat a burger, bitch.